Hi, Aquarius, Sun and Rising. Welcome to your June 2022 Astro Update. It's Rena here. So, Mercury goes direct on the 3rd of the month, and I don't know about you, but I'm going to be very happy, even though it hasn't been like the worst in the world. There have been some stuff that has happened. Of course, sometimes stuff happens when there's not a Mercury retrograde, right? So, what can we say about that? But when Mercury comes out of its shadow around the 17th or 18th of June, I feel like that second half of the month for all of us is going to feel a lot more quicker paced, and things will be easier to navigate and to launch and to, all of that good stuff moving forward. So on the 3rd, Mercury goes direct in the sign of Taurus, 28 degrees of Taurus. Well, Taurus is a fixed sign like you, Aquarius, and it's in your 4th house of home and family. So we've had this Mercury retrograde begin in the 5th and then go back into the 4th. I could see for some people, if there was some, situation of an ex contacting you. I'm sure this is not going to be true for everyone. It might be a bit outlandish for me to even mention, but what came into my mind is this idea of somebody who hears from the love of their life, even though they already have a family of their own waiting for them at home, and they contemplate actually leaving that family for that love relationship. And so they're thinking it over, and something gets resolved, and maybe you decide, I can't break up my family, I have to honor that, or you run or you run away with that person. I don't know. But anyway, the other thing that could be happening is something to do with the business that you own, and maybe it's related to working from home. With that 4th house, the domestic environment is connected to the 5th house in some way, since both of these houses are affected. I do want to state, though, that this is a general reading based on certain people's charts. They may have everything in one house. Like, for instance, in my case, it's happening in my 1st house based on the nature of my 1st house. And it's not, it doesn't go into any other house just because it changes signs. I have Taurus and Gemini in that 1st house in those particular degrees that it's falling in between. So that could be something that happens for you in a different house. But, I'm just making it easier by putting it like this. And so something gets resolved, and it will feel stronger and stronger, like I said, until it gets to the point where it is actually moving forward. And that's, mid-month. The very next day, Saturn goes retrograde in your sign. And, one more thing that I want to say about this is that if there's some kind of a home matter, that can be resolved too. Like when I say home, I'm talking about some kind of like a contract for buying a home or selling a home. Because with the Saturn retrograde happening in the 1st house of the self, during the last couple of years, you may have been laying down foundation for your life in general, Aquarius, and this is manifesting in that 1st house as some kind of new things, even like buying your 1st home, for instance. And by the way, you could be like 50 and buying your 1st home. So I'm not talking about being 30, you could be 50. even something like that, even though it's not occurring in the fourth house, it could still be, part of the whole thing of laying down roots, staying in one place. Um, the first house to me can represent all areas of a person's life. And you may just feel that sense of taking things more seriously. And I wanted to include that fourth house situation as it pertains to real estate matters. And with the Saturn retrograde, this is going within yourself in terms of issues surrounding discipline. I mean, like, for instance, Saturn in the first house could be really getting a strong health regimen, but especially like maybe exercise and things like that, where you're kind of being more disciplined about your body. And then, maybe something happens that makes you think about it. Like, what am I doing here? Am I doing the right thing? What is the motivation for what I'm doing? And it causes you to reflect, like, what is my true reason for doing this? And a lot of times when people do the physical things for the right reasons, like because they want to be healthy, they want to be vibrant, so they can be a light in the world, and they don't feel like they're incapable of helping others, then that is a good thing. It's not like, oh wow, I want to look, I want to be really hot or whatever. It's a totally different vibe. So that's kind of like going within, in a sense. Maybe it can even be letting go of this need for perfection and total discipline, because in the Northern Hemisphere, we have the summer in June and we're nearing the solstice time. And people sometimes take a break from these kinds of things. And if a person is very aware of what they're doing, they know that they can pick it up again. It's not like they're just kind of giving up on it forever. So it may be, in the long run, a very good decision. On the 13th, we have Mercury going back into Gemini, into fellow air signs. So that's in that fifth house. And so obviously, Mercury is coming back up to speed. Mercury in the fifth is very good for literary, creative projects. And it's also good for any kind of thing if you're somebody who is interested in the theater, Aquarius, and maybe this is a hobby. Fifth house can be your hobbies too. And I would even include singing in with Mercury. But all of these kinds of activities can be quite enjoyable during this time, because the fifth house is a house of pleasure. And this is a form of pleasure that is on the intellectual level with Mercury here. Or verbal, whatever you want to call it. And also, communicating with somebody that you have feelings for, that could be fifth house. Teaching children. And remember, we had a new moon here on the 30th of May, and that's the time when Mercury was retrograde. So this may be bearing the fruits of that new moon, but later in the month, around the 13th or beyond. On the 14th, there's a full moon at 23 degrees of Sagittarius. That's occurring in your third house, which is a house of teaching and learning and siblings. You may find out something about siblings. Now, again, something may be going. Oh, wait a minute. I might be. I'm sorry. Wrong direction. This is actually the 11th house, and this is the house of hopes and wishes. Full moon here can bring one of your wishes to fruition that you have been cultivating. This can be this is the house of friendships and group associations. You might be done with a friend or a group for some reason. Typically, this is going to be because you no longer vibe with it. So it doesn't have to be something nasty. It just can be something that it's outlived its usefulness. On the 21st, the sun goes into Cancer. This is that solstice time when the sun goes into a cardinal sign. Powerful period, the change of the seasons. And in the Northern Hemisphere, it's Midsummer Night's Dream. I found out that is what the Midsummer Nights. I kind of suspected that it was that, but really, isn't the solstice supposed to be the beginning of summer? The summer solstice, the beginning of summer. So why would it be midsummers? But I saw something like that. I think I'm right about that. Anyway, whatever. So for you, this is the 6th house of work. So it is an earth house. It is kind of practical matters that are coming into your life. Oh, this happens every year, but depending on what the other things, the personal planets, where they're at, that will determine the specific influence. The very next day, Venus goes into Gemini. And so Venus is in that 5th house. Definitely could be something romantic because you have Mercury there. So especially for somebody who's an air sign who loves to communicate, talking to somebody that you have a crush on or something like that. So it's kind of a mental thing because Mars will spend a long period of time here, but later on in it's going to be there until March, which is crazy. So the 5th house is featured for you this year going into next year, but it's not all going to go down at once. Venus here could be making money through creative pursuits. It could be just enjoying, the house of pleasure, enjoying creative endeavors and other types of fun things, social things. On the 28th, we have a new moon at 7 degrees of Cancer. And so again, that's the very practical 6th house. New moon here, new beginnings for some kind of job-related thing or health, or the schedule that you have. Perhaps you have a new schedule that you are operating under. And especially for those people who are working from home, this can be something that you have more freedom regarding. On the same day, the 28th, Neptune goes retrograde at 25 degrees of Pisces. Well, this is your 2nd house of earned income. Neptune retrograde here can reveal where you have been deluded financially, if that applies to you. Perhaps you have believed something that was not true about your finances, and you have to face the music in some way. This could be like a wake-up call or a reality check, but it can be very good because, if somebody is not living in reality as it pertains to their budget, finances, whatever, then that can be a nasty little surprise down the road. Also, if you're involved with someone, and it doesn't have to be a romantic partner, it can be though, but it could be somebody else who is using you financially, that might be a time when you find that out. And maybe they preyed upon your good nature or your kind nature to try to give you some kind of a sob story, and that you found out that they were lying about it, because you have Pisces in your second house forever and always. This is not a transit for you to have Pisces in the second house. The transit is that Neptune happens to have been in its own sign for the past 10 years. And so you may have encountered in the past decade some kind of con artist situation, or maybe this is something that is to come or is currently you're experiencing for the first time. But it's the thing is, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we are holistic beings. And so I really feel like when something happens in one area of life, it is indicative of things that are happening in other areas. So for instance, for somebody who is let's say you're a sun in Aquarius and you have inner planets in Pisces already. And that can lead you to already be very charitable, wanting to make other people happy and not wanting to see other people suffer, and maybe even having a fair amount of gullibility. Or your moon sign can be any sign, including Pisces. And Pisces is the one sign that I think is an easy mark for all of that. And it can make you, give money to people who take advantage of your kindly nature. And so sometimes we have to learn how to be more discerning, not to not be generous, but to also protect ourselves, because we deserve to, be happy as well. We can't be so self-sacrificial that we're more concerned about somebody else's well-being than we are of our own. We have to care about ourselves too. So I think ultimately it can be a good thing to wake up from a situation that may have been not in your best interest, or maybe that it was something that you invested in that turned out to be a con artist situation. So I'm not saying that that's how it's going to manifest. It can simply be, exploring or kind of internalizing this idea of altruism and how it really pertains to you, how it affects you. And maybe you find that, you really like living quite simply and being very altruistic, that makes you feel joyous, and it makes you feel very light. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. Okay, that's what I have for you, Aquarius. I hope that this resonated. If you would like a personal reading, I'm promoting my double readings because they are a good value. My deep dive readings, an hour of natal chart interpretation with an hour of transits for the upcoming 12 months. My whole enchilada reading, chart analysis, plus full-length tarot reading for a special price, and single readings as well. You can find out more information at the link below. I'm at RenaMoonAstrology.com. Thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.